Welcome back to our final segment of this week's edition of Sun Devil Extra, the Mountain America Credit Union Sun Devil Radio Network show that shines the spotlight on Arizona State Sun Devil athletics. I'm Tim Healey, the radio voice of the Sun Devils. Glad you're with us this week. As we continue our discussion of Sun Devil football's off-season, we're joined now by a gentleman who will be entering his 6th season in the Sun Devil football program in 2024. He has coached ASU's running backs that entire time, and in 2022 did a terrific job under difficult circumstances, serving as the interim head coach of the Sun Devil football program. We are delighted to welcome Coach Shaun Aguano to the show. Happy New Year, Shaun.
Happy New Year to you. Thank you for having me.
Good to visit with you as always. We mentioned to your colleague Charlie Regal in the previous segment, there really is no off season in college football anymore. Give us your perspective of what the last month's been like.
Yeah, you know, the last month has been hectic. I know we get a couple of days off for Christmas, but then the transfer portal opens, and so we have to do visits, and so our weekends are taken there. So it's turned into a 365, 24/7 deal here in the college football world.
Give us a sense of what's that like. The transfer portal, there's a clearinghouse, I'm sure, a website where you see all the names. How does that process unfold when you try to determine which of those players you're going to target?
You know, once they enter the transfer portal and they're cleared, then we go about looking at their film, talking to former coaches, trying to vet that position, and if it's something that is a good fit for us, in an area of need, then we go after them.
That sure has changed the dynamic, hasn't it, of what December, January, and early February are like for college football coaches?
Absolutely. You know, now it's the transfer portal. Usually everything is done with the high school arena in December. Transfer portal in the first week of January. So now in the second signing for high school, and the January period is usually looking for the next years. And so that's kind of changed within the last couple of years.
I know there are probably a lot of fans, the purist college football fan, who wish that the transfer portal could go away and we could go back to the way it was in days of old, so to speak. But Shaun, one of the things I've admired about Coach Kenny Dillingham is he's all in on that. He recognizes the portal is here to stay, and doggone it, we're going to make the best use of it. What's your take on that?
I think he's right. And when you can get a transfer portal player that has multiple years, that has been in an experience in the collegiate level, that's almost the same as getting an experienced or a 5-star high school that has proven themselves. And so if they have multiple years, it's a good take.
And one interesting dynamic, I think, from Arizona State's perspective is the utilization of the portal in a way that if you don't sign particularly a homegrown talent from the state of Arizona, if they go somewhere else to start their college career, it doesn't mean they might not eventually make their way back here to finish their career. And we've already seen several examples of that.
Absolutely. And, you know, building those relationships over the years, especially with the high school students starting, you know, in their sophomore, junior, senior years, I think it's more important now because if they do go out of state, you've had that relationship prior, and if they trust you from before, they wanted to go out of state to experience something new, but they've trust you throughout the process, they always come back knowing that it is open here.
Share with us your overview of the 29-man class that you signed in the early December signing period. 16 freshmen, 13 Division I transfers.
You know, I think it's a good mix. It was areas of need on both sides of the ball, especially in the trenches, that I think we did particularly well. We had a running back come in from a speed factor that we needed, that I thought it was an area of need. And then we added multi-year linebackers and secondary, and so I thought it was a good mix of everybody. And the thing about it, I thought that we got good players that were good character kids that I think is a good fit for Arizona State.
No question. As ASU's running backs coach, I think Coach Aguano has to be thrilled with the 2 running backs the Sun Devils signed in December. One of them is a former USC Trojan, Raleek Brown, who was a former 5-star recruit out of Mater Dei High School in Southern California, considered to be one of the top running backs in the portal. And then incoming freshman Jason Brown comes from O'Dea High School up in Seattle, Washington, a consensus 4-star who rushed for over 6,400 yards in his career, breaking the O'Dea High School record previously held by a pretty doggone good running back. You may remember Myles Gaskin at the University of Washington, who went on to the NFL. Talk about those two fellows. They look like two quality backs in your room.
Absolutely, and first the transfer portal, and when we talked about having relationships as well, and Coach Dillingham having relationships, I recruited Raleek when he was back at Edison High School in Stockton his sophomore year before he went to Mater Dei.
Wow.
So we had that connection there as well. He brings experience, he brings explosion. I think he brings that speed that we lacked, I think, a little bit in our backfield. But he's going to be a joy to watch because he's a game changer as well.
And isn't he like a multi-positional guy? You can use him in the slot or even flank him out wide.
Absolutely, and you know, he's a like you said, multi-utilization guy, and that we can hand fly sweeps. He can be in the passing game. Also come from from under center. So he's somebody that we're excited about.
And Jason Brown from Seattle, boy, he's gotten a lot of accolades after the conclusion of the season.
Absolutely, and Jason's a great kid. We got on him late. He was looking at a couple of other schools. We got on him late, built that relationship with him and his family. When he came out and loved the school when he came out on a visit. But I like the way he goes about his business. Very mature, great kid, great athlete. That I think brings a high level of football intelligence to that room as well.
I think it's always important to add at least one quarterback in every recruiting cycle, and in the early December signing period, the Sun Devils got themselves a good one from the transfer portal. Former Michigan State Spartan Sam Levitt, who was a one-time Gatorade Oregon High School Player of the Year up in West Lynn, Oregon, not far from Corvallis. He's a good get for your program.
Very good, very good athlete. I think a great head on his shoulders, and he's going to bring some competition to that room for sure.
Now, another development, I think, in the early signing period, the Sun Devils' establishment of a potential Polynesian pipeline. And Coach Aguano is a native of the state of Hawaii. I'm sure pretty excited about that. 7 members, nearly a quarter of this signing period's signees, if you will, are players who share a connection with the Polynesian community. Talk about that. How did that come about? And boy, there are some really, really good players out on the islands.
Absolutely, and Coach Sanga has done an incredible job, just from a position coach and what he has done with that room. But we've built relationships going back to the islands. I probably know 99% of all of the coaches there. Coach Sanga and I double teamed the islands and Utah, where after COVID, a lot of the Islanders moved to play football, as well as in the California region. And so I think that was great for us to get that pipeline going back. But Coach Sanga has done an incredible job with his position and recruiting the islands.
We talked a little bit with Coach Regal in the previous segment about the Sun Devils' recruiting footprint and how it has expanded. Charlie talked a lot about how you've continue to make gains in the state of Texas with 6 signees there, but you also had some success in the Pacific Northwest. We talked about Jason Brown, and talk about the tight end that you signed, the #1 rated player in the state of Oregon.
Absolutely, and I think going back to the days, a lot of our Coach Mons and Coach Regal, as well as some of our coaching staff, had relationships prior from the high school region, working with a lot of these coaches, and so those calls are easier because we've worked with them in all-star games throughout the past decade, and so those relationships are there, and it's now coming through fruition that we're getting some of the top players in those states.
That #1 tight end is Jaden. Is it Fortier or Fortier?
I think it is. I don't want to make that mistake. Yeah.
He comes from the Portland suburb of Tualatin, and really stayed constant and committed to his word to come to ASU.
Absolutely, and there were a bunch of schools coming after him at the end, and I thought Coach Mons did an incredible job solidifying that relationship with his family, and he's going to be a force to be reckoned with here.
Coach Regal also discussed with us the 4 Arizona signees in this early class, and that's been such an emphasis with this staff from day one, with yourself, Coach Mons, Coach Regal, all being successful former high school coaches here in the state of Arizona to keep the homegrown talent home.
Absolutely, and we're shaking every bush out there and making sure that we build those relationships and keep building those relationships with the high school coaches. We know we have to win and to keep the upper echelon of athletes. However, we see a lot of them coming back. And so those are relationships that we've built, and so we have to understand that process going forward. But I'm excited for ASU and the athletes that are here in the state that I think will be huge for us in the next coming years.
Now, with the traditional February signing day a couple of weeks away, what will be some positional areas of emphasis moving forward, do you think?
I think that there are spots for summer graduates that, again, key positions, offensive, defensive line, especially younger ones that we can develop, and then game changers that have not signed. And so there will be a couple of those players, but I don't think we are going to just bring in any player. They have to be ones that we think are game changers.
And hopefully they will be game changers in the Big 12 Conference as ASU moves to a new conference home starting this coming 2024 season. What excites you most about the upcoming move to the Big 12?
You know, seeing different stadiums, playing in different states, just seeing a different level of competition. We've been in the Pac-12. I've seen it for 6 years now, and so it is exciting to see something new.
Yeah, for sure. And the state of Texas, we talked with Charlie about this. Football's a religion there, and now you got 4 schools in the state of Texas that are part of the Big 12. I'm looking forward to those trips to Lubbock and Fort Worth, Houston, and Baylor, Waco, Texas.
Absolutely, and it gives us a footprint to go and recruit, knowing that we'll play in front of their families. And so, and I had one with Kyson Brown from Lancaster in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and so he's excited to play in front of his family. So the more and more we get accustomed to recruiting Texas, I think that'll be a huge plus for us.
Kyson he didn't get a lot of opportunities, but he showed sparks when he did. He's an exciting talent. I'm anxious to see him develop.
He's going to be a good one.
We're anxious to see the Sun Devil team develop under the leadership of Coach Kenny Dillingham and assistants like our good friend Coach Shaun Aguano. Shaun, great to see you. Happy New Year and all the best to you, my friend.
I appreciate it. Same to you guys.
And that'll do it for this week's installment of Sun Devil Extra. We thank you so much for joining us. A couple of thank yous before we leave today. Thanks to our executive producer, Arizona State Senior Associate Athletic Director Doug Tamaro. And thanks as well to Sean Crespin of the Sun Devil Radio Network, our engineer-producer each week. We will be back next week with another edition of Sun Devil Extra, and we hope you'll make plans to visit with us. Till then, I'm Tim Healey. Thanks for watching. So long, everybody.